morning. It's indeed a pleasure to be here this morning in front of the press to give you some information as to what is happening at Port Zante and in fact what we are trying to achieve for the upcoming season, which is right now a bumper season. As you can see, we are in front of the arrival hall, and which means that the cruise lines that come in dock here in Port Zante, and then the passengers come off. When the passengers come off, they have two options at Port Zante. They have the option to go on pre-booked tours, which means that they would have already, before they came off of the ship, they've already booked their tour. So if they're going to pre-booked, they'll go on this side. That's on the western area where the pre-booked persons will be. If they have not pre-booked a tour coming off of the ship, they will go to where the taxi operators would be, over here on the eastern side. And it is the aim always to ensure that the pre-booked, which are on the western side, and the taxi operators at the eastern side are separated. If they are not separated, we're going to have a congestion and challenges when the passengers come off. We must also appreciate that we are coming from a situation where we had 500,000 cruise passengers to an explosion in 2016-2017 cruise season of 1.1 million passengers, which means that over the last 5 years, we are having the numbers increase by some 100%. And so the design has to be formulated, changed in such a way as to accommodate 15,000 passengers that we have coming off on any given day. That's the challenge. And so the Ministry of Tourism and the St. Kitts Tourism Authority, in collaboration and constant dialogue over the last year with the taxi operators, we are trying to find a workable solution that benefits all. And when I mean benefit, I mean at the end of the day, our remit, that's the Ministry of Tourism and the St. Kitts Tourism Authority, our remit is to ensure that our people are or get the benefit of every single dollar that they can derive from the cruise passengers coming off. And so our remit is to make sure that the entire country benefits from the tourism and the cruise product, whatever it is that comes into the country. We have another challenge, because the other challenge is that very shortly we are going to have the second cruise pier being constructed. And when the second cruise pier begins construction, I would hope very early in January, this area will be no more, which means the area which houses the pre-booked now will become dysfunctional and no more because of the construction. And therefore we need a house for not only the pre-booked, but see how we can relate them now to the taxi operators. So the intent really is to move the pre-booked from the western area to the eastern area. Well, as you can realize, that's also a challenge because we have the taxi operators on the eastern portion. And so we have been in dialogue with them. And so we have said to them, look, we need an amicable solution in the best interests of the industry. And so we've said to them, look, the UDC, which owns the common areas down here, all these areas owned by the UDC, has spent $800,000 on a taxi stand, which is not used, which is just beyond the rum barrel. And we have said to them, UDC has spent $800,000. We believe that is a reasonable place for you to be pleased. We have said to them, look, you're not going to lose business because we, as the Ministry of Tourism, will hire individuals who will guide the visitors once they come from the arrival hall down to where the taxi operators are. that for us is going to ensure that the visitor experience is at its highest. Why? Because traditionally over the years we've been having an issue with the dispatching from the taxi stand. And so we have sat down with the taxi operators to try to find a solution where the ministry can work side by side with the taxi operators to ensure that the dispatching is at its highest. And so we believe that the dispatching, as it currently stands, we need to change that. And we're not plucking anything out of the air, because you would appreciate when a cruise ship docks at the commercial pier, there is dispatching in a most proper way. You would also recognize when you come to the airport and you come outside, there is a proper dispatching by taxis at the airport. The only difference of the dispatching is at Port Zante, which you want to correct, because what happens is outside of the arrival hall, we have a lot of soliciting. And because of the soliciting, you have undercutting of the government rates for taxis outside the arrival hall and beyond. And so we are trying to ensure that this doesn't continue, because what is happening, it's creating brawls down here, it's creating fights down here, it's creating uproars down here. Nobody is benefiting. The taxi men don't benefit because they undercut one another and they are demeaning the value of their work. And so we are trying to ensure now that all the problems and the challenges that we have at Port Zante, and they have not just arisen over the last 2 years, these problems have been endemic in the industry, and we are now trying to settle those issues that we have. Obviously, change is not always welcome. We have no horse in the race. Our remit is to make sure that the visitor experience in St. Kitts and Nevis is at a premium, and so we become a marquee port, #1 port. We are the #3 port right now out of 35 jurisdictions, and my aim is to make us the #1 port ahead of St. Martin, who places #1. We cannot get there unless we fix some of the issues and the problems and the challenges we have. And I am almost certain that we are going to have buy-in from the taxi operators at the end of the day, because even within the taxi fraternity, there are persons who want the changes that we are seeking to make, because they understand there is no transparency and equality and equity in the distribution of tours among the taximen. And so we are here on the eve of Tourism Week to try and ensure that the industry grows from strength to strength. And I do not want to exert too much energy on this area, because I believe our greater challenge is to ensure that we drive traffic to stay over visitors. Cruise is growing, it's growing nicely. We need now to focus our attention on the bigger picture, which is stay over visitors. And we are at 125,000 thereabout. We need to grow that, even to half of what is in the cruise industry, to make sure that our people benefit from the industry and we move from strength to strength.